Welcome to another episode of Innovation Somalia. I am your host, Abdul Ali. I'm coming to you from Columbus, Ohio. Please, if you haven't get the opportunity to go ahead and subscribe it, go ahead and follow us on pretty much all the social media across the board, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all that. So we appreciate. So welcome to another episode coming to you again from Columbus, Ohio. Today's guest is Mohamed Kafi. He's a young adult who pretty much kind of sort of grew up here in Columbus, Ohio. Very much involved in the community, especially the youth, the mosque, the different type of activities throughout the youngsters. So thank you for taking the time to come. I appreciate. For the folks that don't know you from Columbus, Ohio, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Mohamed, like you said, Mohamed Kafi. Well, before I get into my name, I want to go ahead and take this moment to send praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making it happen. And then after that, I want to say thanks to you for approaching me and telling me about this project, even though we met at a place of khair and all that. So, and the second thanks also goes out to you. And then lastly, I want to thank myself for being able to accept the invitation and following the process through. But with that being said, my name is Mohamed Kafi in Columbus, Ohio. I grew up in Columbus. I came here when I was about 13 and a half years old. Straight from Nairobi, Kenya. So coming here was a lot of challenging and all that. It was a lot of culture shock. But alhamdulillah, one thing that I always had with me to this day was I never let my Somali go. To an amazement. So which has helped me, with a lot of, different places, whether it was at the mosque or, associating myself with the elders in the community. I had no problem with that. So that definitely did help a lot. But then went to high school here. I graduated high school. Then thought about going to college. I kind of didn't know what I was going to study in college. So I took about a year off thinking about what I wanted to go for school, a gap year. And then one thing I liked about myself was I always liked traveling. So every chance I get, even high school, spring break, I would travel, Boston, New York, here, there.
Did you went back to Kenya since you've been here?
No.
Okay.
The farthest I went back was, I went to Addis Ababa in 2015.
Okay.
But,
how long you were there?
I was there for like 2 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2 months.
Okay. For visit or?
Yeah,
okay.
Visit.
Who's there in your family?
Family.
Okay.
Some distant family were there.
Gotcha.
And all that. But
what made you go there?
Just,
to get away for a little while?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. But so because of my love for traveling, and then I discovered aviation, and then I was like, ooh, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
So I talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of, management level seniors.
How did you discover aviation?
I was very social. One thing I always knew was about myself, I was a social bug.
Okay.
Wherever I go, if you threw me in the middle of the sea and you give me a week and you tell me, hey, it's up to you, I will tell you, hey, what? I can make friends within a heartbeat. So I talked to a lot of people, and, I was like, and then after, consulting with them and all that, I talked to, the second person I talked to is always my father, right? My dad is one of, and I've always said this, my father's like I am mini him.
Gotcha.
Like everything I see in myself, I see it in him already. So alhamdulillah, right?
Alhamdulillah.
He went to school here, he grew up here, he went to college, he went to, Ohio State University, all that. So I told him, I was like, Abba, this is what I kind of want to get myself into. And then he's like, oh, that's very interesting. Is that what you want to do? I was like, yeah. And then he's like, without a heartbeat, he's like, I'll support you, whatever it is that you want to do. Make sure you finish college. That's your own, That should be your own goal. Whatever. I don't care if you go for what type of degree. The thing that you should do is you should finish college.
And where did you went to college?
I went to starting off. I went to the Ohio State University.
Oh, okay.
I went there for about a year and a half, and then I did not like what I was kind of getting myself into. I was taking unnecessary classes. I was going back and forth with counselors and all that.
Yeah.
And then one thing about me is if I'm not managing my things before the semester starts, well, that's not a good semester for me. So I was like, you know what, this is not working out. OSU, there's a lot of schools, right? If I graduate from Ohio State, that's good. Falillah alhamd. If not, there's a lot of other schools, Okay. So I researched the program that I wanted was aviation. So I kind of took my computer. I looked at Florida Tech came up. So I was like, interesting. Everything online. You get to work full time. You get to work. All that stuff.
How's discussing that with your parents before?
My parents were pretty supportive.
Okay.
To this day, they're pretty supportive.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
My mom, growing up, she always emphasized the deen, the importance of the deen. Right. Growing up in Kenya, everything there's competition between the kids. Right. Sometimes siblings. Whoever finished Quran, whoever, does this first, and then you're competing for the parents' love. It's like, right? In Kenya. So that's what we grew up upon. But my mom, one of the things she always emphasized was salat. She's like, Muhammad, whatever you do in life, don't leave. Salat hakatigin and deen ta hakatigin. Right? So that actually motivated me to become even bigger than, what I am right now, right?
I want to focus on that really quickly in terms of parents pushing their kids on praying, and I think that makes a big difference when you grow up. You might, in any way, shape, or form, or whatever you're doing, if your parents push you a little bit in terms of towards the deen, everything else will just kind of sort of come together.
Right, and then growing up, right now I'm grown, alhamdulillah, right? But growing up, there's a lot of things that �𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄 and you're gonna be like, I'll do this later. But then once you grow up, you tend to realize that that was so important in my life, right? Hasn't my mom done this and this to me, I wouldn't have been where I am today, right? And you start appreciate those little
moments. A later time,
right? Yeah, at a later time. So for me, those kind of moments were very big, right? I grew up with my 𝐓𝐇. He taught me how to pray, right? He taught me Quran. He taught me so many things that I know right now about deen, right? But the person that was the backbone of everything that I am right now is my parents, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right?
MashaAllah.
They taught me, right? They taught me the deen. They gave me a good name, right? And then they were like, you know what, Muhammad, we have done enough for you. Go find yourself, right? One thing I was always good at is I was always good at school. And it always motivated me.
When you say the school is a big word, right? So when you say the school, is there a particular subject that you were good at?
I was not good at math.
Okay.
Right? But
nobody is.
But I was not a shy person to ask for help. Right? The stigma about education.
And I think that makes a big difference. Yeah. A lot of people really do not go far and beyond asking for help.
Right.
They think that they can. No one can do it all together in the world. You always need the support of another person.
Right. So there's a stigma about education within the Somali community, right?
Yeah.
If you ask for help, basically you're nas. You're not good of something. In life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
I think that exists like the generation before you, but I don't think that exists in your generation. It's a little bit of especially if you grew up here, the majority of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stigma within the Somali community. We'll get into it, based on what you find at the 𝐷𝐿𝐶 and based on what you find at the youth that involved in the mosque.
Those 6 guys going there, we used to talk about how life would be down the line. And then I remember one day we talked about 4 years from now, one guy said he would be in medical school, right? Another guy said he would graduate and he would get a job in the field. Another guy said he would go all the way to PhD, right? Another guy said I'll just graduate and then I'll see where life takes me, right? So all of us say it's one thing, right? Can you believe 4 years later, one guy finished college and he's working in the field. Another guy, he's in his PhD, right? Another guy, he's in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
All of us, we kind of made our routes.
Gotcha.
True, and that's because of how motivated we were at the time, right? One of us was good in math, one of us was good in science, one of us was good in writing. I was the one that was good in writing.
Okay.
Right. So if I have a math problem, I'll bring to my friend who's good at math.
Right.
I'll tell him, hey, I'll help you writing.
Yeah.
If you can help me solve this problem.
Yeah.
Here,
Help me understand
right.
this, and I'll help you understand
So
this.
like,
Yeah.
oh, this is
Sharing the
easy.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is very easy and very simple.
Yeah.
Right. So he would help me. He would show me how to do it.
Excellent.
Within a heartbeat, and then
Yeah.
we'd get it.
Yeah.
And, that's how we help each other out.
Yeah. And that shows to kind of sort of point out the sum of the 5 people you hang out with, the people that you surround yourself will make a difference in your life for the long run, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you guys long-term friends and
we're
long-term
friends, yeah.
understanding,
Yeah, we're friends, yeah.
it kind of sort of copying each other's success and all that, so which is excellent. And so you went to 𝐷𝐿𝐒 at Kenya and the 𝐷𝐿𝐒 here in Ohio. How do you compare the two?
Wallahi, ilmi is knowledge.
Right.
Whenever you go or whatever.
But it's a difference how you go by studying.
How you
Yeah,
study
and who
and
and how you've been taught as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the unique things I can point out immediately is that 𝐷𝐿𝐒 in Kenya was fun.
Okay.
Right. You would do the Quran, right? Two page in the morning. Then 2 hours later you do another 2 page because you have all that time until 5 p.m. 𝐷𝐿𝐒 right? So
All day.
All day long.
Yeah.
You might get breaks in between.
Okay.
Lunch break.
You go home, eat, and come back.
Eat, and then you come back.
Oh, okay.
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 2 hours or so.
Okay. Then you come back.
Right?
Okay.
And then either a page or a page and a half.
Gotcha.
Right? And then
Yeah.
Page So in that time, you completed 8 to 4 pages. So that's and between then it would be curricular activities.
Gotcha.
Either Ma'anika will give you time to play. Either Ma'anika will give you what you want, or either Ma'anika will tell you, hey, on this day, we're gonna go. Sorry, I'm not. Right? And people over there, they love especially soccer, right?
The Ma'alimin 𝐷𝐿𝐒 has a very difficult job. Kids that are coming from different households, and I think it's just the same as the schools too. Pretty much everybody's a little bit different when they're going to school or when they're going to any kids in caring area. But anyway, and I think the Somali community have to do a little bit better, and I think we are in the process of doing that, and hopefully that will shine through the success of our kids. On the other side, kids that really get off the tracks, kids that are out there doing some bad stuff, they get caught up with the lifestyle, graduated from high school, but yet they are in a position that we don't like to see them per se, right? Drugs and doing all that stuff. Do you know anybody?
Wallahi, a lot.
Okay.
If I told you I don't know anybody, I would be lying to you.
Right. Everybody knows somebody. Right. Do you know somebody who was at the mosque then turned up to be on that side?
I mean here and there.
And there, right?
Yeah, here and there.
So now, what can the mosque do? Because what I'm getting at is there's mental health.
Mental health is its own subject.
Right, its own subject, its own description.
It's a broad
but
topic.
it's a very broad topic. Mm-hmm. But I think they kind of
overlap. Scream at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about tarbiyah at home. We're talking about tarbiyah at 𝐷𝐿𝐒. We're talking about tarbiyah at school. We're talking about when you put all that together, if the person doesn't have a strong foundation, and so foundation being the parent, that will be easily and also a strong.
Be easily misguided.
Yeah, a strong foundation also includes a neighborhood where there's no other activity that he can copy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. First of all, the question is that someone could be asking themselves, right, in a community, regardless, right, because I didn't grow up in the suburbs, right? If I grew up in the suburbs and I moved outside of, town, I could have turned out, who knows? I could have turned out great. I could have not turned out not so great. Right?
Only Allah knows.
Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. So the hidayah always comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right?
Yeah.
But the
person,
right? There's a man who came to the Prophet ﷺ. He says, "Oh, should I tie my camel, or wuxuu dhahay geela xarig ma xirtaa ilaahayna ma tala saartaa waxa lagu dhahay ilaahay tala saaro geelaagana ku xiro xarigiisa, right? So the question is, qofkaas isweydiin karo, am I influenceable? Ma la influence karan karaa? Can someone change my mind easily?
But 17, you should know this, but 17-year-old, don't take the time to say, hey, let me take quiet time myself and ask that question.
There's a lot of peer pressure,
right. And let me pray on it. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's no such a thing. Yeah, but it just happens.
It just happens,
right.
And it's in high schools. There's a wave called peer pressure. Right, coming from the school itself, right, and the population. School collected. If you're not doing something that they're doing, you're seen as somebody that's weird. Or somebody that's not up to no good. Or a fob. A fob is fresh off the boat. Right. But that's one question I asked myself. I was like, hey, am I qaf me influence karan kara? Can someone influence me? Because I had my alhamdulillah, I had my two parents, strong foundation, detailed, we had 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐄, right? I was at a point in time in life where I was like, what's next that can life throw me at, right? And it was school, right? And I handled that very well, right? With the help of my parents, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And of course with the help of with myself too. Right, you gotta discipline yourself and all that, right? But you're right. Kids, 17-year-old kids, they don't have time.
The reason I was asking about that mental health is that I think it will be beneficial that, and maybe this is something that can go back to the masjids and all that. To offer a mental health talks. Because kids nowadays, it's easy for to get depression. It's easy for to kind of sort of focus on the negative side of it. It's easy for it to easily focus on the left side rather than go into the right side. So I think and there's halaqa, there's there's a multiple activity and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was actually
and I think that's helping. In a way that we haven't seen it before, and hopefully it gets continued.
Right.
No,
you brought it up. Actually, that was my next point. Right. Mental health is a big topic.
Yeah,
itself,
it is.
Right.
It is.
Mental health. Somali ahaan, if you look at it,
right.
waxa waaye caafimaadka dhimirka waaye.
Yeah.
Right? Maskaxda.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So qofkan mental health, it comes into two different ways, a lot of different ways. Dadku u dhacaan, right? It can come, need jab ku iman karaa, heartbreak, right? It can come support u qofka waaye, maybe you
the peer pressure we're talking about can come over that.
It can come over
from
you was my coach, and then you used to cheer me up, you used to hype me up, but I don't get that support from you anymore. So
it can come from all kinds of. It's not only two, but it can come from all different subjects. Absolutely, all different kind of angles.
You love somebody.
Yeah.
And qofkii kugu booday.
Yeah.
It can come from that too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it comes from a lot of ways.
It goes from,
waxbarasho ku jirtay.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
You get overwhelmed easily. There's
you
some.
kept failing.
Yeah.
You get depressed.
You get depressed. It's easy.
Once a person gets depressed, they turn into 𝐷𝐿𝐼 and all that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Quran, if you turn to the Quran,
right,
and you cure yourself, right, and you seek the right resources and all that. Right. The masjids, they do offer programs, right?
Okay.
They offer academics. They offer, deen, studies, there's institutions that are set up, for a person to learn the deen and all that go on the weekends, right?
Yes,
also,
yes.
There's a lot of
I know
programs,
that.
But
Yeah.
Speaking about mental health, it's a one-on-one kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's a one-on-one kind of thing. So and I believe there's the right professionals for that in the city.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
So one of the things we should do
Absolutely.
is they should host a conference that is 2 days conference,
Right,
shedding a light on this topic and all that, right? And talk about the influence of drugs in the community, the influence of overdose in the community, what causes kids to run away and all that. There's a lot of problems that the community is facing, and if the community leaders and the right groups and the right professionals for the right areas, they come up, right, and I believe they could come up with a solution.
I think so too, because you're touching a very important point that we are seeing the outcome of what drugs do to a kid, what a bad neighborhood do to a kid, what depression and kind of sort of a mental challenge that will do to a kid. So kid meaning like middle teenager to higher teenager and stuff, because those are like the years that like you said, when you were farming and get already, there's no way to kind of sort of
you can.
but get markuu yar yahay, it's flexible enough that you can just kind of sort of bend it,
get
wena lama toosin karo. Exactly, you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? So by then we should be enjoying the fruits and stuff like that. But if that fruit is too bitter, then there's nothing you can do in terms of like you have to go back to the drawing board for the next generation to not turn in this bitter. But I think somebody like you comes through the channel, comes through the ranking, which is that tells me that the masjid and all the other component that kind of sort of being put together is just happening, right? So there's and I guess we need to see more of you guys than on the opposite, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what I'm trying to kind of sort of shed on light. I'm like, okay, though that we see enough, enough kids coming out, but then nowhere near to the other, the opposite of that. So that's why I mean, like, okay, we need to kind of sort of offer a little bit more.
You gotta talk about it.
Yeah, we gotta talk about it. Yeah, we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about it more. It seems like a taboo to talk about it.
Yeah, but
do you feel that at the masjid?
Oh yeah, of course. 100%,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like but there's a thing when you talk about something constantly.
Yeah.
Right? You keep reminding people
right.
the same thing over and over again. Someone, as you're doing that, someone might be like, oh, this thing is not even, that important. And someone might be like, oh, this is really important. This, and
right.
all that. And then he's going to go home, he's going to reflect on it, and then he's going to be like, you know what, I should really watch out for this kind of stuff. And as a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ, that we have honored, human beings, the Bani Adam, the son of Adam, and we have carried them in the sea and the محلها البدة بري قلبه وصل قادني سمعها ورزقناهم من الطيبات, and we have fed them in many of the goods وفضلناهم على كثير من خلقنا تقديرا, and indeed we have honored them more than we have honored the rest of the creations, right? Why? Because you have this thing called brain. مسكحة وعينك كل شيء كرتها, hey, what you're doing is wrong. دب هدا وشيدي هدا دب كل عشان I have to أقطع أخذ skill على دب كاس. لكن هدا I'm just gonna go and walk on the fire. Then it's up to you. وأنا كهرة أنت كرة معهن.
Right.
ما دام Abdul is going to the دبكة أنا على قلم.
On the opposite side of it, if you're part of the picture, if you're part of the frame, you cannot see the picture.
You cannot see the picture.
Yeah. So that person can only see so much of it, because once you're in it, it's like you have all these blocks that will prevent you from not seeing it. I want to come back to that point a little bit in terms of are we doing enough? we do the masjid enough. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that if you hear something constantly, that will raise your awareness, and if it does raise your antenna, then you tend to watch out more, whether that's good or bad. Oh, hey, that school, there's nothing good comes out from that school. All the Somali people are failing that school. Measure scale aliyah.
Good with that.
Right. Yeah, it's good with that, but not with the mental health though. And not with the overdose and drug use and all that stuff. Oftentimes that you hear that somebody clearly died overdose. Oh, he was he died while he was sleeping. We don't want to hear that. We want to get to the cause of it. Like, okay, we know that he died sleeping, but what caused it that? Besides Allah wa ta'ala, we all know that as well. But we need to kind of sort of figure out that, hey, this is causing lives throughout the community. We can prevent this from happening. How do we get ahead of the curve? That is the question that needs to be real. When I was a kid growing up, I used to hear, you got to go to the best schools. You got to finish the Quran. You got to do this. You got to do that. So that, at the time, it didn't make any sense. But now I'm all grown. I mean, like, those were like just a seed drop from my parents. Do this, do that. For my sister, do this, do that. Or you yearn for, like, hey, I want to do a big thing. Even though that you cannot reach it at the time, you just have that push mentally.
Right.
It just basically it's been planted back your seat. But how many times do we say that here to somebody that, hey, you got to do this? Only a few times. I think we just need to kind of encourage that.
You're right, but I think it comes down to planning.
It comes down to planning.
Planning. The reason why I say that is I was once having a conversation with one of my professors. Right. He told me he was like, essay today.
Right.
Right. Essay today, and I wrote the essay.
Mm-hmm.
No, astaghfirullah. It's not. It wasn't an essay. I took a test.
Mm-hmm.
It was a test, right? So the test goes online. When I took the test, I got a low mark. I got a 79.
Mm-hmm.
And I emailed the professor and I told him, hey,
can I redo it?
Can I retake it?
Mm.
He was like, yeah, no problem. I'll open it for you. So he opened it. I took it 2 days later. Guess what? I got 2 marks. So now I got 82. Right? I emailed him again. I was like, hey, I think I can really, I deserve a better grade than 82. I think I know, even though I'm passing, but I want to prove a point, right? So I told him, open it again for me. He was like, okay, no problem, I'll open it for you. So he did. And guess what? I got 86. I went back again. I was like, hey, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. I know I can get a better grade than 86. I don't deserve it, evil, right? He's like, hey, he was a very cool professor. He was like, no problem, I'll open it. And then he opened it, and then I went back, I took it, I got a 96. I was like, I'm set, I'm good. And then towards the end of the semester, he kind of asked me a question. He's like, hey, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. He emailed me, we're going email back and forth. Right? He's like, can I ask you a question? I was like, yeah. And then he's like, you remember that exam that I opened multiple times for you? I was like, yeah, I'm very aware. He's like, what made you, the first time you passed it, right? The second time you had an 82. So what made you come back and forth to me and what made you open up, made me go back and forth to open it for you? And I told him, do you really want to find out? I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah. I grew up in a place where education was
highly valued.
Was highly valued. I used to walk to school at the high.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, that makes sense. He was like, I was teaching this course for almost 20 years, 19 years. Yeah. I have not seen a student like you, and I don't think I'll be able to see that. And I hope you go high places in life, really. Yeah. And it comes with planning, right? Yeah, so you gotta plan, you gotta give yourself high standards, you gotta do all these things, right?
That is the key. I mean, giving yourself high standard will set your expectation for the better. So if you setting up, if you're settling for, like the bare minimum, then I think you're
gonna be an average.
No,
job,
not only that,
right?
is you're on the danger to be pulled on the other side.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right now.
Yeah, you're feeling comfortable.
The lowest thing that can happen to you is you can give your family a good name.
Yeah.
Or hevel.
Or yourself, not only for the family, because if you think about it, and that is the other thing that, and I want to say, family thing, people rely on kids actually carrying the burden of family thing. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. So yeah, you should really care for you. As a parent, I'm a parent, right? I don't want my kids to have a bad name. It will reflect on me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want my kids to think about it like, what will make my dad happy. I want them to think about what will make them happy.
Right.
So if it will make them happy, if it's the wrong side of it, then it's my job to influence and say that, okay, hey, in the first place, I should never put you in a position to kind of sort of even, think, stuff like that was okay. So then, it starts from the bottom. Appreciate you coming. Appreciate you taking the time to come here and chat with me. And, there wasn't any pre-plan. We were just kind of having a conversation. And I think hopefully a lot of kids will benefit out of this discussion and see, things that they wanted to do in life. Learning your religion is more important than anything else. And I appreciate you. If you wanted to, say a few things to, the young and beginners to the Quran and all that, go for it.
Jazakallah khair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet he says, whoever that does not thank the people, he does not thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first, with that being said, first things first, I want to say, like we started, I want to give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making it possible, right? Because without him, decreeing for us to be here on this beautiful day, without him making that possible, we wouldn't have been here. So alhamdulillah for that, right? And the second thing, 𝐓𝐇𝐈𝐒,
right.
𝐒𝐵𝐵 right? And to use it for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons, to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that as well, right? Because the Prophet, he says two things, everybody has them, right? Right? نعمتان فيهما مقبول كثير من الناس, right? And that is الصحة والفراغ, free time and health. A lot of people take that for granted.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So the reason why I bring that hadith up is because I want to get 2 points or a message to the youth, right? If you're number one, if you have free time, right, and there's no what sort of responsibility that is expected from you by your parents or by yourself, right, you should be able to use that time, donate it for the right reasons, right? And number two, if you're very healthy, right, 𝐒𝐲𝐿, do not use those, do not use that healthy lifestyle to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because anything can happen within the blink of an eye, right? You can get into a car accident, right? God forbid.
Absolutely.
And then
absolutely.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take you, can take your soul at any moment. So, and always remember that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always victorious, is always helping those people who are on his way, right? Whether you're seeking knowledge or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whomsoever that fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will find a way out for him, regardless of how tight the situation is, right? And then he says, if you're on your way to seek knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always aid you, right? It doesn't matter what type of way you take, right? As long as you're seeking knowledge, مَنْ سَلَكَ طَرِيقًا يَلْتَمِسُ بِهِ عِلْمًا سَهَلَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بِهِ طَرِيقًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. There is so many things that we can point out in this sitting, but for the sake of time, we're not, because we're busy and all that. But make sure that you strive towards what will make you happy, right? Set up a legacy, right? Work hard, very hard. No. Educate yourself in your 20s, fall in love with what you're doing, craft your journey, make it your own, unify it, marka unique, and you spend all your 20s studying and religion or academics or all that, because in this day and age it's better for you to have the best of both worlds. Deen تاعنا وأنا قعدت ميدك كويستي بدح هذا وأنا كويستي أدونك, right? So if you can do that, all your 20s, go ahead, do it. And then your 30s, work hard, shaqaso, la'aqtab, all that. and then your 40s, you plan for the legacy that you want to leave behind for whoever that's coming after you, right? So it starts with planning. You know, if you're doing something that's good, that's good. And then if you don't do anything else, that should be it, right? So that is my message to the kids today. You know, if there's anything that we've said that is wrong, it's, you know, from shaitan and us, and we ask Allah to not hold us accountable for that. And if there's good that we've said, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yeah, I wouldn't leave you with that. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.